Vilnius Collegiate Higher Education Institution. And it's a big honor for me to be standing in front of you today as the moderator of the first day of our conference, and to give you all a very warm welcome to the 32nd Annual Conference of Eurashe on the theme Skills for Europe, Mobilizing Higher Education for the Green and Digital Transition. Throughout this conference, we will have a very good opportunity to come together as a community of professionals, educators, and leaders to delve into different aspects of future skills. This conference serves as a platform for exchanging ideas, sharing best practices, and exploring the latest trends and innovations that shape our sector. I encourage everyone to actively participate, share your insights, and engage in meaningful discussions. But before we start, I would like to provide you with some practical information. First of all, I would kindly ask you to switch the sound of your mobile phones. That's a general rule, but we would really greatly encourage you to use the phones during the conference for sharing your impressions in social media using Eurashe32 hashtag. You all must be familiar with the program of the conference and might have noticed that we will move to different buildings for breakout sessions. We will have students in white t-shirts to help us to find the location, but it's very close. You might have noticed that the central library is 5 minutes walk from the main building. But anyway, I will inform you during the day about changing the buildings. Information for the speakers. You will hear a bell ringing. Michael, will you show how it will sound? Yeah? Yeah, this is the sign that the first bell will just mean that 2 minutes are left for your presentation. And if the bell rings the second time, that means that your time is over. What else? Let's be sustainable. We know that some of you will be leaving today. And for those who are leaving today and for the rest of us tomorrow, let's leave the badges on the registration table. Also, information about the gala dinner tonight. Buses will be arranged for us waiting at the main building at 6:15 p.m. So please come together and we will be transferred to the place of the gala dinner. Those who will not come, just you have the address of the restaurant in the program and just find your own way out from there. And now it's my big pleasure to give the word to the president of Eurashe, Armando Pires. Let's meet him with a good round of applause.
Thank you, Nicole. Good morning everyone. Dear Secretary of State of Education of Romania, Bogdan Cristescu. Dear Rector of the University Polytechnic of Bucharest, Mirna Postoi. Dear President of Eurashe, new President of Eurashe, Anas Hafazeta. Dear guests, dear students, dear partners, dear members, colleagues, friends, it is my great pleasure to welcome you all, like Nicole already did it, to the 32nd Eurashe Annual Conference. I would like to start my speech by warmly thank you dear Secretary of State, for your availability, for being with us in our major event, the annual conference of Eurashe. Also, warmly thank to our hosts, the UBB, of course, particularly the Rector, for your generous hospitality and great collaboration organizing the conference in this wonderful campus. We have very much enjoyed cooperating with you over the last months. I also want to thank all the participants, especially the keynote speakers, the panelists, the moderators, and the breakout session organizers, and also the members of the program committee, and last but not least, the Eurashe Secretariat for their commitment and excellent job done. Many thanks. This year we have in our conference around 150 participants from 21 countries. And the program is organized in plenary sessions with keynote speeches, a roundtable, and panel discussions, and also an impressive number of 21 breakout sessions. It is really great to see so many people involved in our events, which means a lot about the good health of our association. This year's main theme is Skills for Europe. And in case you still don't know, we are now officially in the European Year of Skills, which was launched by the European Commission on the 9th of May, Europe Day, and will last for 1 year, for 12 months. While this was the main reason for choosing the theme of our conference, Skills for Europe, or for Skills for the Future in this case, is one of the Eurashe's thematic priorities in the 2023-2025 strategy. In fact, we should be looking at the near future and even the present, not just anticipating which skills will be required in some years' time. There is indeed a critical lack of labor in key sectors for the European economy, and professional higher education should be part of the solution. We need to be quick to increase the offer and adapt curricula, especially professional higher education for adult learners, in order to fill such labor shortage in sectors like, for instance, hospitality, logistics, healthcare, and IT. For example, Europe currently lacks 200,000 cyber security professionals, which many of our members, of our Russian members, help to train. Applied universities have a dual role when it comes to skills. We educate students to enter the labor market, equipped with high-level skills and practical experience to become top professionals in their fields, yet we also provide them with the soft skills and the broader competencies such as for entrepreneurship and leadership that will allow them to adapt to a rapidly changing world. All the content in this year's conference is, in different ways, related to skills. We will be interested to see how the Secretary of State or thinks education contributes to skills, and also the second keynote speech tomorrow will look at boundary-spanning competences, something that Eurashe has been analyzing in a project with the University Industry Innovation Network. Later this afternoon, The panel on applied science will reflect on how analytical skills can be strengthened in both students and staff, developing deep tech talent for new industries, as well as boosting research in our own institutions. Tomorrow, we will discuss how quality assurance frameworks can ensure that higher education is equipping graduates with practical skills and not just theoretical knowledge. And there are so many interesting breakout sessions with different perspectives on skills. Therefore, I will not speak much longer, so we can get into the European Year of Skills. I would like to finish this speech by expressing my deep appreciation to all the candidates of the yesterday election for the Eurashe board, and particularly congratulating the new board members, including the new president, Hannes Rafa-Zeder, and the new two vice presidents, Mihole Zinkeviciene.
That's right.
And Jan Altuna. I would like to wish them all, of course, all the best for their mandates. I was pleased to see so many candidates this time, which shows that Eurashe is in good health and can become stronger over the coming years. I wish everyone a fantastic conference. Thank you and enjoy it.
Thank you, Armando, for the inspiring speech as always. And now we would kindly invite the rector of the Bucharest Technology Polytechnic University, Mitnea Cosmin Costuyo, to give a welcome speech.
Thank you so much. It's a very good name, because it's in this period we had a process to exchange, to enlarge the university and change also the name of university, Technological and Science University, but maintain the old name Politehnica. Distinguished guest, Mr. Secretary of State, Mr. President Armando Piles, Mr. President Hannes Rafa-Zeder, Mr. General Secretary, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to extend my warmer welcome to the University Polytechnica of Bucharest and express our gratitude for Eurashe for selecting our university to host the 32nd annual conference. Thank you so much, Mr. President. Thank you so much, the board. The 32 annual conference during the European Year of Skills. We are deeply honored to have this opportunity. As you may know, we are in the largest technical university in Romania and one of the most prolific academic community in our country. Our mission here is to promote innovation and education and to impact society for the better. We do this not only through our own initiative, but through creating a collaboration platform for some of the most important actors with the European higher education area. We also do this by investing in people, infrastructure, and opportunities. In the past decade, we have built not only some of the most advanced research facilities in the country, but also the greatest investment in Romanian education and research in the past years. Only in the last decade, we have invested more than 700 million euros in education and research, more than any other national organization or institution in Romania. As Romania's economy is rising, especially based in various subsectors in the industry. Our proposals in this country and region is to support this growth with highly specialized professionals. We want to see our direct impact in society and economy. We are also the first organization in Romania who is currently accessing the investment plan of Europe, the former Juncker plan, to continue the investment in university. We are doing this in the effort to create more educational facilities, but also in order to create better and more opportunities for self-financing. In this sense, we are trying to emulate the behavior of some private sector which generates significant income in order to support the quality of their services. In our case, the educational and research services. We take the independence and autonomy of higher education institutions very seriously. And now, as we speak about European degree, European joint degree, and automatic recognition of diplomas, it is even more important to keep the academic autonomy. It's a fundamental value of academic institution. In this context, the strategy of our university has to continue investing into creating modern laboratories and serve both students and society. The important investment have this main proposal training of student skills, the preparation for a technological society, and also the integration of the university into society by offering solutions to society's problems. Some examples. In the period, we are in the process for transforming the campus into the largest smart green campus in Romania in order to create a smart green city green across entire university with a highly efficient energy managed system. It's a big lab dedicated to students and for society. We are also in a significant regional research center with numerous contracts with the private sector. To our partnership, we ensure not only the transfer of labor force, but also the technological transfer forward the open market. We truly want to impact society for the better through knowledge and innovation. Another example, in the political context, very difficult political context, we are now facing with the help of United States. We will begin helping the region to transition to nuclear energy through a brand new nuclear energy exploration center. It is the first international center of its kind, and when it succeeds, it might help Romania become the first country in Europe which deployed the modular nuclear reactor. It had a big lab for students and society. Mr. President, speak about the cyber security for European Union, for all the universities and for the European Union society. Our university is a host of the new center, European Center for Competence in Cyber Security, the first agency, European Union agency in Romania. This agency is dedicated to realize the European strategy in cyber security and also to prepare the European society for the hybrid world. Its other big lab realized with the European Union, Romanian government and University POLITEHNICA, dedicated not only for Romanian society but for European society, for students and for society. This is our vision. And in contact deeply in the central theme of this conference, which begins today. We believe that, especially in the past decade, university have become agent of the social change and economic development. According to the last report of the World Bank, universities contribute to the creation of knowledge, innovation, human capital and social cohesion in their region and beyond. The report estimates that universities generate about 2.2 trillion of value added annually, equivalent with 2.8% of global GDP. Moreover, universities have a positive impact on social indicators such as health, gender, equality, democracy, and human rights. The simple fact that 1 on 3 workers who are employed in a labor surplus of shortage occupation in 2020 indicated mismatch between supply and demand of skills. And occupational gender segregation, it's still a major issue, with fewer than 1 of 3 workers in labor shortages being a woman. We have a strategy in the university in the last 50 years, and we address in society about this subject. And now we are here in this university have 35,000 students. I'm very happy because this strategy, with this strategy, have very good results. More than 40% of these students, it's girl in the technical university. Also, according to Eurostat, more than half of people of the European Union had at least basic digital skills in 2021, but this share varies greatly across the member country, from 79 to Netherlands and Finland, and 28 in Romania. We're still working on that. This strategy shows that we need to take urgent action to close the skill gap in Europe and to foster the culture of lifelong learning. We need to invest more in education and training to promote mobility and cooperation among higher education institutions and employees, to support digital inclusion and gender equality, and to anticipate and adapt to the future skills need. Only that can we ensure that our citizens are equipped with the skills they need to thrive in the future. I think that one important thing to keep in mind in the next few years, in that the scope of nature of, thank you so much, of university is changing. Yes, we are still offering quality education, but we provide, then we can offer much more than that. That we can make a difference when it comes to social impact and act like a catalyst of development and innovation for our communities. Change is looming large, and the next few decades could use innovative university if we are to build the Europe of future. I firmly believe that only through collective action can we create a positive and green future. Only by raising the unified and strong voice can we drive the transformation and the foster of a new dimension of European higher education. Ladies and gentlemen, with this in mind, allow me to wish you again a great stay in our university. In the next few days, in the very important European conference, please take the time to enjoy our university campus. We say our beautiful campus, the largest green campus in Romania, and I also hope that you exit from university and take a look around the city. We will enjoy the eclectic style and modern, and the contrast between the historical and modern. Bucharest, it's a beautiful city. I don't finish because before to introduce the next panelist, the next speaker, very important for our university and not only for our university. Last year, it's a very difficult year for Europe and for the world, and very, very difficult year for our countries and for our universities, but especially real, very difficult year for Ukraine. Last year, in our university, in our country, in a few days, in a few weeks, it's coming more than 300 refugees in Romanian universities. I insist, in Romanian universities, across the border with Moldova and Ukraine, but many refugees coming also in Bucharest, in our university. In a few days, the students across Ukraine, not only Ukrainian students, students across the world, from Africa, from Asia, from Europe, from South America. It's coming in our university. And Romanian university and the board of our university decided to help the refugees in the second minutes. It's not, we don't have a debate about this. It's necessary to realize this. And in some days we have 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 refugees in our university in some weeks. It's not so easy to manage, but we have very, very, very good relation with the Ukrainian students and with the students in general, the professor, and we realize a common body for help the families and the students. I want to thank you again, my team and my university. In this room, we decide at the Senate of University what is our response. And thank you again the Ukrainian students for accept the cooperation with us, and we work together in very, very good condition. It's not so easy, it's not perfect, we have a lot of problems, of course. Repeat, nothing it's perfect, but it's perfect after this month and this year, because we are safe and the family is safe. Now many Ukrainians return, many families return to Ukraine, and now it's in Ukraine and help the country in this terrible war. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much again for your support, also for Eurashe support, because the sign for all European University Alliance and all European University Association is very important, also for Romania, for Poland, for Czech Republic and many others, for Lithuania, Estonia, Lithuania, for the country in the border, and not only. It's very important our response in University Association, and thank you so much again for this message. Ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you so much for your presence in our university. It's a great honor for us to organize this event in POLITEHNICA of Bucharest. Invite the next speaker, the Ukrainian students from our university. It's not many, it's enough for next panel. And I want to speak about the leader, I say Alexander. It's a student very implicated in the problem of the refugees, not only the students refugees, all the refugees in Romania, and it's present in many television shows. Now it's very active in Romanian, Ukrainian society. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Victor. And now for a very short time, but in a very significant moment of our conference, we would like to give indeed the word for the true stories of the Ukrainian students that are studying in this university, and it's very important to underline the reality that we are living in since March last year, and to allow our institutions in Eurashe to take action, maybe being inspired, but the real stories are behind it. So please give a warm welcome to our guest students from Ukraine, Dari, Serhi, and Alexandr, which are studying here in Izheve, and let's have a very short round of introduction, share with us impressions, we're jumping to some questions, and later on to the conference.
Hello, my name is Darin Haris. I'm from Mykolaiv. I started my study in Kharkiv. I studied for 1.5 years before the war started. Now I study here in UPB. I study chemical engineering, and I'm thankful that I'm in a safe place and I can study without concerning about my safety.
Good day, everyone. Good day, everyone. My name is Serhi Slutu. Currently, I'm a second-year student at the University POLITEHNICA of Bucharest. I'm majoring in computer science here, and I started my study first in Ukraine. Before the war has started, I've been studying there computer engineering. Thank you.
Good day, my name is Alexander Popescu. I'm from Chernivtsi. I started my study at University POLITEHNICA of Bucharest before the beginning of the war, and now I am the student of Faculty of Entrepreneurship, Business Engineering and Management. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I would start with Darin. How, in your opinion, besides of course the help that you've received in the university that you accommodate yourself, how in your opinion the universities and the institutions can even better help Ukrainian students in this reality?
So I would like to start by telling you what is going on right now with education in Ukraine, since I'm still in touch with my colleagues, with my friends in Ukraine, and why we really need this help from European universities. So in the beginning of the war, nobody really cared about education because the only problem people could think about was how to survive. And only in a while, when people either found a safe place abroad or learned how to live in the conditions of war, they got back to their work and study. Educational process was resumed, of course online, after a month being completely stopped. But this online study is completely different from what we used to have and from what other European universities used to have during the pandemic. Students can simply study and professors can't teach a class when there is a missile attack or a blackout. So from my perspective, the best help from European universities would be giving Ukrainian students who are here in Europe or who are able and are willing to come here an opportunity to continue and to finish their study here. Because if you get accepted to university with a chance to graduate and to get a diploma, you can be relaxed at least about your education, and it gives you hope for your future, which a lot of young people might have lost when the war started. But when I got accepted to UPB, it was such a relief for me, and I'm extremely thankful for that. It would be especially great if it was possible to simplify the procedure of enrolling Ukrainian students with considering any kind of difficulties that they may have with their documents. For example, as it was for me, I was supposed to give my original school diploma, which I didn't have because it is kept in the university in Kharkiv. So considering this, I was allowed to bring it later, anytime when I can, before my graduation. And I was enrolled with my copy of the document. A bit difficult part for me during my transfer to Polytechnic University in Bucharest was to find out information about my group, about the schedule, about a place where I had my first classes. Not because it was unavailable, just because I didn't really know where to search for it. The only place I knew was the secretary of my faculty. I was copied several times, but I didn't really know what I should be asking for. Because I know how the system works in Ukraine. We have a tutor for a group, a chief of a group, and in secretary you can ask their numbers. But I wasn't sure if the system works the same here, so I was a little bit lost. And when I found my schedule, I didn't know how to understand this because I didn't know the notation of buildings in UPB. I didn't know that I have most of my classes actually in another campus. So I would kindly ask you to think about providing Ukrainian students with some person who would explain the small details, who would guide them in the university right when you enroll them. And of course, in the end, I should mention that any kind of financial help and help with accommodation is significant for us. Especially it is helpful in your first year when students go through adaptation and integration into new country. And thinking about money and place to live would be extremely overwhelming. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you very much for your attention and understanding.
I have a question for Sergey as well. When it comes to even before coming to universities, there was also the context of crossing the border and traveling from country to country, just getting here. So I would like to ask you, Sergey, how that's the situation for you when we're crossing the border and what possible obstacles Ukrainian students might face there.
Good day, everyone, one more time. So, as I mentioned, I arrived from Kharkiv, and since April of the last year, I've been a student at the University POLITEHNICA of Bucharest. I believe I was the first student who was accepted to study in Romania since the war began. When the war started, I was 17 years old. Therefore, my mother drove me across the border, handed me over to relatives, and then she returned back. It wasn't crossing the border that was challenging, but reaching it, as my city is only 30 kilometers from Russia. From the very first day, we were bombed from the planes and shelled, and between the shellings, my parents took a risk and managed to get me out. And after that, I faced no difficulties crossing the border, because the border services understood that people had been traveling to the border for days, and they worked very efficiently. After that, I applied to the University POLITEHNICA of Bucharest with my CV, and because it's a well-known university, and I was accepted. After that, so today in Ukraine, due to the state of war, the men of ages between 18 and 60 cannot leave the country, whether they're students or not. But children, usually in Ukraine, finish school at the age of 17, so they can go and study abroad. And Kharkiv, generally speaking, is a strong educational center. The region boasts several hundred schools, lyceums, and gymnasiums of various profiles. For example, I finished a lyceum and a class for mathematics and physics. So when the war has started, my schoolmates have continued their studies in Oxford, London, Bucharest, Cluj, Berlin, München, and other cities. So today, the study in Ukrainian universities and schools continues to be online. In the Kharkiv region, there are about 80 higher education institutions, of which more than 30 are universities. These institutions, they are on really good level. They have employed for Nobel laureates, and even famous mathematician Stravatsky have studied at Kharkiv University. So they continue to function today, but of course they operate online. My mother, she's a full professor at the School of Medicine at University, a genetist. She continues to work also this way online. Not the problem. She continues to work this way online, and I want firstly to thank the Ministry of Education of Romania and to leadership of the University POLITEHNICA of Bucharest for help and support that they provided me with throughout my whole way from Ukraine. And also, because of my family helps and supports Ukraine and Ukrainian armed forces, my mother has often to cross the border between Romania and Ukraine, and she also admits a high level of organization at the border services. And as a matter of fact, many children today in Ukraine are seeking paths for their further development, but unfortunately there is not enough information in Kharkiv about Romanian universities. Recently, in the spring of the last year, a Romanian consulate was opened in Kharkiv. It will hopefully and likely aid to the educational outreach. And I wanted to say thank you for the International Students Department at University POLITEHNICA of Bucharest, that they helped me and accepted me to this university very fast. I would like to express my gratitude that I found my friends and mentors here, and one more time, thank you.
Certainly, and last but not least, Alexander, you have also experience in organizing the life for the Ukrainians coming here and the volunteering aspect and so on. Can you tell us a bit about that, how the organization of the life and the volunteering goes up here, and also, you know, as well how it was helpful in this matter from the organization point of view?
on 24 February 2022, there was the beginning of the war, the full-scale of Russian invasion that changed our life from before and after. On the day, Romanian people showed a great solidarity and support for Ukrainian people in time of difficulty. The quick response of the students of the University POLITEHNICA of Bucharest leaves a special impression because they give an extraordinary example of consolidation and readiness in difficult moments. For example, for several days, students organized the collection of the humanitarian aid for Ukrainian refugees. As part of this project, each faculty contributed to the development of volunteering organizations and created collection points for food, medicines, and warm clothes for people of all ages. In order to spread the information about the collection of humanitarian food, students used all available communication channels. Online resources such as Facebook, Instagram, as well as internal WhatsApp channels have become the main platforms for providing the information. In addition, advertisements were placed in whole educational institution to enable all interested people to participate or to contribute in collection of aid. Representatives of UPB gathered all Ukrainian students that were studied as of 24 February and held a discussion where assured us in full support in this terrible situation. For effective communication between the representatives of UPB and the Ukrainian refugees and students, I was hired as coordinator of Ukrainian relations. With outbreak of hostilities in Ukraine, the Polytechnica provided housing for Ukrainian students, for Ukrainian refugees in its own dormitory, which amounted of more than 200 families in the flow in these dormitories. To help cope with adaptation to the new environment, we tried to identify the main problems faced by Ukrainian migrants, and the main problems that were identified were finding a job, continuing study for children and students, and treatment of wounded people. Polytechnica is supporting Ukrainians since the beginning of the war, not only psychologically but also financially. As for financial plan, Ukrainian students were assured with free accommodation, an additional stipend of 500 lei, and daily lunch in a restaurant placed in the campus. Director of International Relations of UPB, Luciana Mihai, always tried to keep in touch with us, what assured us in full support from UPB. On behalf of Ukrainian students, I would like also to thank the entire Romanian folk for extraordinary solidarity towards Ukrainian students and refugees and Ukrainian folk. Ukrainians want to express their gratitude to Romanian political leadership, which pursues the policy of Ukrainian support in all spheres of social and political direction. At the same time, we want to thank the representatives of Polytechnica and University, Rector Mitnea Kostoiu, Vice Rector Nicula Horia, and Director of International Relations of UPB, Luciana Mihai, and others for providing the support for Ukrainian students and refugees. We want to thank also teachers and students for help in integration in the new society and environment. And we want also to thank the entire community for helping Ukraine to continue to defend European democratic values. Slava Ukraini!
very much for the testimonies. I think that was also great inspiration to think of how our institutions, community even help more figure out how to deal with this terrible reality and situation, but in the same time very much help the students. Thank you so much for, again, I'm handing back to
It was so touching. Dear students, thank you very much for coming and sharing your stories. Okay. Yeah, I just said that it was really touching. And dear students, thank you very much for joining us today and for telling your stories. And dear rector, big respect to you for what you are doing for the Ukrainian students. And also thank you very much for the splendid overview of the development of Romanian higher education in such a short time. You managed very well. And now it's my pleasure to invite the Secretary of State, Mr. Hristenscu Bogdan, as a keynote speaker today. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I would also like to take the opportunity to enforce once again a message. Dear students, you are a very, very good example that education is the basis of hope. Yeah? You presented the chance to education, the chance to upskill and reskill, or us, the older one, as a chance for the future. So thank you for your bravery and for your resilience. And we hope to be close to you as much as possible, because after that, we all will participate in the reconstruction of Ukraine. Thank you. Dear Mr. President, dear rectors, esteemed guests, teachers, students, and colleagues, I am delighted to open such an important debate today. I would like to extend my appreciation to Eurashe for putting up such an impressive agenda, and to our host, the Polytechnic University of Bucharest, that made this event happen. Our higher education system faces a common challenge. In this respect, there is an increased need for development of more inclusive and equitable higher education systems, defined by quality and excellence, for matching the skills offered with the needs of the labor market, and preparing the whole academic community for the twin digital and green transition. How we develop skills through education and training, and in particular how our educational system can better contribute to preparing each individual for participation in the labor market and society in general, are questions that are guiding our policies today. We are witnessing an era which technological advancement and digitalization are fast transforming the way in which we live, work, learn, and interact with each other. CDFOP forecasts that by 2030, around 41% of all jobs will require higher level qualifications, and 45% of them will require medium qualifications. In this sense, higher education institutions play a crucial role in training the learners for green and digital economy. Universities can also accelerate the dual green and digital transitions by embracing the new paradigm of Industrial Revolution 5.0. At the same time, while digital skills will be, without doubt, instrumental in all life sectors, we need to ensure that non-technical, transversal skills are an integral part of a more comprehensive approach to digitalization. The speed of digitalization has highlighted the need to build a learning culture underpinned by critical thinking, autonomous learning, learning to learn, problem solving, and creativity, as they all provide for more adaptability and flexibility on the labor market. A second major dynamic of our society in transition to a greener way of life, climate change, represents a global challenge that requires concrete actions, and higher education is an essential platform for developing all the necessary skills in order to create a sustainable future. In this respect, we should consider 4 directions of action: developing student skills on climate change and environment protection, investing in a greener infrastructure for higher education, creating educational resources and teacher training. The interest of higher education institutions in developing expertise to combat climate change and support sustainable development is reflected equally in information and awareness campaigns, studies and activities with an important component of social responsibility and participation in research projects developed at the European and international level. Digital and environmental dimensions are not only vectors for strengthening the resilience of our society after the COVID pandemic, but are ensuring the sustainability of our investments in education and training. In Romania, the contributions of investment in education and training to digital transition will reach over 1.1 billion euros over the next 5 years, and to green transition, more than 600 million euros through the National Resilience and Recovery Plan only. Ongoing and projected investments in digitalization in higher education target skills, infrastructures, technology, connectivity, as well as new teaching approaches through some comprehensive programs. The first I will mention has to be related to digitalization of higher education. The equipment of 61 universities in Romania with digital centers will stimulate the emergence of new study programs that foster advanced digital skills and priority areas. A second strand that will contribute to increasing the adaptability and flexibility of our education provision is through increasing the attractiveness of VET programs. Investing in VET attractiveness can support the responsiveness of our educational systems to labor market needs by ensuring a better integration of the world of work within the world of learning. The reforms that we are currently implementing at national level in the dual professional education sectors lay down the necessary legal conditions for the development and deployment of a complete learning pathway for dual professional education from upper secondary through higher technical education. This legal reform will be accompanied by a more than 330 million euro investment from Romania's National Resilience and Recovery Plan in at least 10 integrated regional campuses for dual education, but we target at least 2 of those in each region. That means 16. The 16 new integrated regional campuses for dual education will extend dual education provision at national level, increase the number of fields, qualifications and skills for the labor market, providing level 3 to 8 qualification according to NQM. By setting up regional consortia and integrated campuses, we aim to increase the quality of dual education provision in relation to the needs of the labor market and create the necessary platforms for cooperation between education providers, economic operators, and local authorities. Looking forward, flexible and personalized learning pathways will be necessary to ensure the openness and adaptability of our education and training systems. An ecosystem for micro-credentials that will allow recognition and validation of skills acquired in different contexts, both formal and informal, will also be generalized through the introduction of the new educational law currently adopted by Parliament in the legislative procedure. Dear participants, investment and initiatives at national level need to be matched by ambitious and well-developed European cooperation tools. One such key development for higher education is the European Universities Initiative, which offers the opportunity for higher education institutions to better respond to the demands of digital and green transitions. In the last years, the transnational cooperative between the European higher education institutions increased their effectiveness for international students, teachers, researchers, and global partners, allowing the universities to develop joint initiatives and increase the quality of educational offers and the potential for research and innovation. The higher education institutions that are participating in different alliances of European universities have nowadays the opportunity to test the new cooperation tools based on quality assurance standards, such as joint European degree label, a single legal status, the development of micro-credentials as a way to offer flexible learning units, or more flexible mobility formats. As a result of the 3 previous calls for selecting alliances of European universities in 2019, 2020, and 2022, 14 Romanian higher education institutions are now part of such European alliances. In this context, we need to continue supporting universities' transformation efforts to translate political commitments into reforms and innovations on the ground, making sure that higher education institutions have the actual means to implement reforms. This is why the new higher education law proposes a series of initiatives that will contribute to the development of a more inclusive and equitable higher educational system. Allow me to list some measures in line with our discussion. First of them, participations in STEM will be further supported through a dedicated program. Second, mandatory regular revision of higher education provision in accordance to the demands of the labor market. Introduction of a short cycle which will bring more flexibility and open the possibility for more non-traditional learners to attend higher education programs. The introduction of dual higher education and the possibility of establishing consortia for dual education to provide a predictable career perspective for graduates and respond to the need for insertion in the labor market. I would like to conclude by encouraging you all to explore new and innovative ways to enhance dialogue, the cooperation and exchanges of ideas and practices, and to continue involving relevant stakeholders in industry as a strong contribution to the development of our higher educational system. Your presence here and the activity of Eurashe for the next more than 30 years is very important. And as you can see, the European education area and the European higher education area, which is within the goals of ASHE, are more present than ever. So, thank you for coming here. I wish you productive work and hoping for the best. Enjoy Romania.
Does anyone have a question to the State Secretary? Let's use the opportunity.
I will be open to questions during the panel or afterwards. Thank you.
Okay. I will kindly ask you to join the panel because very soon we'll start a policy roundtable on European Year of Skills. Together with Mr. Bogdan Cristenscu, we kindly invite Joan and Lucas. He must be with us online. I don't know if Joan here. Yeah, you are with us. Nice to see you. Then Joachim Burato, Director General Higher Education Portugal. By the way, Joan Lukaku is member of the European Parliament. And also Lisbeth Hens, Policy Advisor, Higher Education and Minister of Education and Training, Flemish Community. And the policy roundtable will be moderated by Ulf Daniel Endlers, the Vice President of Eurashe, and also Professor Baden-Württemberg of the University of Life and Sciences. So now I will give the wheel of the conference to Ulf's reliable hands, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and welcome to the first policy roundtable of the conference. The European Year of Skills has started on 9th of May this year. Europe is facing an increasing shortage of skilled labor. That's the subject to fight that, to develop measures, how we can be more resilient against this. And this is, of course, also more intensified the situation by the green and digital transition we are facing. In response to this challenge, the European Commission has launched this concept, a year of skills, and Eurashe has responded to that, by the way, also by launching Skills Community of Practice, where we invite members to share experiences and to learn from each other throughout the European member states where we are represented, to help each other and to inspire each other. But what does this mean actually, the European Year of Skills, and how will it address the labor market needs? This is what I want to discuss today with my panelists. I'm going to introduce them in a short while. Just two figures when I prepared for this roundtable. 1/4, so 25%, 1/4 of every fourth SME in Europe, out of the 25 million SMEs which we have, says that one main constraint for conducting business is actually hiring and finding and hiring good staff, good management staff and good staff for their organization. So that's a major issue, it's 25%. And another figure, in 2016 we had 37% of all Europeans taking part in one training activity per year, and the Commission wants to raise this from 37% to 60% by 2030. So that's a major goal which we need to discuss. So skills also, of course, have a strong social dimension of inclusion and enable citizens to participate in an inclusive way to shape their own future, but also the future of our societies. And we have heard this morning of the challenges which we are facing in many parts of Europe. Also, skills are an important means to voice your needs and to shape and develop democracy, which is very, very important, especially in these times. So how can we make this skills revolution come true? That's my question to my panelists, and about these questions I'm going to talk with my guests. The Secretary of State, which you have already heard, Bogdan Christescu, then Joao Albuquerque, member of the European Parliament, who has been, I found in my preparation, also the president of the Young EU Socialists from 2017 to 2019, and later also our colleague Professor Joachim Morato might join us, who is still in an urgent meeting with the Commission to negotiate the new funding framework for Portugal, higher education, Director General for Higher Education in Portugal. He will also join us later. And then we have Lisbeth Hens, Policy Advisor at the Ministry of Education and Training of the Flemish Community. And I just saw, Lisbeth, that 3 years ago, I think you released a YouTube video, very interesting, on the art of policy making in education, in which she stressed very, very much the importance of stakeholder participation in these processes. So this is my panel, and I'm joining over to you now. Come to my first question to you. So, Lisbeth, maybe we start with you. Higher education is not very visible so far in the documents. Very good. Hi, Joao. Is not very visible so far in the documents which we have for the European Year of Skills. Higher education is not playing a very explicit role there. Does that mean that policymakers don't think it is important for the European Year of Skills? What do you think?
Of course we don't think it's not important. I think it's a pity that it's not mentioned in the European documents. But I guess maybe Joe can answer this more clearly in a stage. But I think maybe in the European level, most of the time when we talk about skills, we somehow sometimes forget the higher education sector. Because most people still, when they think of higher education, they think of, well, the first bachelor or master somebody's going to acquire in their life. They think of the more general students we have. We still have them in higher education, and we should have them and train them. But of course, the higher education institutions, and especially University of Applied Science, also have quite a big role to play in the lifelong learning debate, I think. Because they can also offer courses for reskilling and upskilling staff. They have the competences, they have the practical research to support this, they have the connection with labor market actors, and especially with the small businesses, like you mentioned. They already are connected a lot, so I do think they have a very large role to play in European years of skills.
Thanks. Joe, what is your take on this? How are the higher education institutions and for our community, also the University of Applied Science are very important. How are they actually able to connect to this European Year of Skills if they are so far not so present in the documents? We don't hear you. We hear you, Joao. Mic is on. Okay. So maybe can you try again, Joao? So maybe I ask the question first, while the technicians are trying to sort that out. I pass the question first to you, Bob.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, Joao, for the. I hope so. I won't get so many things, but I already, in a way, spoke about that. In truth, it's pity that the higher education area is not mentioned explicitly in the document. But as you can see, and as I told you the statistic from CDFOP, more than 40% of the jobs will require higher skills. Okay? Okay? Now it's okay. So, the university plays an important role in that area. And as you say, maybe sometimes, and for some people, university look at, I don't know, a bridge that is too far. So it's very, very important to see that higher education institution can contribute to upskilling, to reskilling, you don't have to, I don't know, possess a PhD in order to get to university and upskill something you need and reduce the skill gap that some employer needs. On one hand, on one other hand, higher education institutions have research centers. And there are a lot of examples, even in Romania, where research centers are met at disposal of small enterprises to test their ideas, to test their devices. And it's a way that you can get together the industry, even the small industry, that doesn't, let's say, it's hard for a small industry to have a research lab or to try to, if they have an idea, to have the tools and to have the laboratories and to have the knowledge in order to test those products. When a research institute or when a higher education institution puts its laboratory at disposal, it's easier to bring them together and help with research even the small industry. So I think it's without question that in the skills, the higher education skills are at the core, and you can't reduce to that. The micro-credential, as I mentioned, and the short cycle are important, but not only that. Even in research and the collaboration between stakeholders and between those involved in the development of the job markets, higher institutions, they do play a crucial role, although they are not explicitly mentioned.
Thanks a lot. One try more. Joao, can we get you into the conference? No, it's not working yet. I'm so sorry. Then you can try sign language. It's not working, okay. So let me maybe pass a question to my colleagues here on the panel, again to Lisbeth. Future skills are also one important part, and future skills are traditionally skills like, being resilient, being able to communicate, knowing about ethical issues, for example, having an inner compass, being able to put yourself in the shoes of others, and this in these times where things are changing a lot, are becoming very important. What would you say could be the role of higher education, which is, I often perceive it, traditionally perceives itself as being knowledge-oriented. What could be the role of higher education institutions to help develop these skills?
Now I see that Joe unfortunately will have to leave us even earlier, so it might be the sign language is also not going to work. I'm sorry for that. But I will try to return to your question. I think that, of course, the role is a bit different, and it can be different because, of course, the future skills are very important for labour market. But on the other hand, also the knowledge-orientated part of higher education still stays an important part. It cannot be that we only train future skills. We also have to train the knowledge of our programs. So we have to find the right balance between their two programs. And if I look to future skills, but also maybe future labour market, I do think that the most challenging part will be that our institutions find themselves in a very difficult situation where they have to be very flexible and adaptable, meaning that their programs have to be adaptable, like the curricula itself, because the future skills might also change, the knowledge will change, the research changes constantly, the demands of labour market change constantly, so you will have to almost continuously adapt your programs to making sure that your students are trained in the right way. But also, on the other hand, we also need adaptability to cater for your students, but also because also a student population will change. Like it will change from more traditional students, if I may call them like this, to more students who want hybrid education, who are older, who combine it with work, who combine it with families. That also makes it that's a constant need for adaptability of our institutions. So I think that's a very big challenge. And can I just quickly say what we try to do as a ministry to support our institutions in that? Because one of the things that we're running right now is the Higher Education Advancement Fund in Flanders, and I would like to quickly tell you something about this, because it's a fund of 60 million euros, so that's quite a sum, which we run for 2 academic years, so from 2021 till the end of this year, where we actually found a momentum together with our institutions. Well, here we go, stakeholder engagement. I'm sorry that I'm repeating what was in the YouTube video maybe, where we actually saw that we had post-COVID, so we saw like there are going to be changes in the higher education landscape, changes in our labour market, changes in our society, but also we saw the demographic numbers, that we see that the number of 18-year-olds in Flanders are going to rise, so more people will go to higher education in the next years. So we really wanted to use that momentum and give the institutions the chance to prepare themselves for this. And we had like a fund of 60 million euros, and now we have 250 projects running in our 18 institutions. So it's quite a lot for each institution. And they could have projects on 3 subjects. So they could have one on more hybrid education, so digitalization, hybrid offer of the education program. But they also could have projects on something we called portfolio development, and what we meant is that we wanted to give the institutions the chance to see the programs that we're offering now, are these the programs that we should be offering in the future. to make some kind of research, like, is this still what we need? Is this what the labor market needs? Is this okay? But also, and then I come back to your future skills, one of the things we also gave them the chance to look really into their curricula and see if the future skills that you will mention could be built in the curricula. So that it's both like, are we still offering the right programs and are we offering them in the right way? And the third pillar they could actually work on was the development of lifelong learning in higher education and in the institutions. So it's really on developing programs for upskilling and reskilling of future students, but also in collaboration with labor markets, dual higher education programs, things like that. And actually, one thing more, because there's one thing more important, like we have the 255 projects, but we actually flank this with the joint development of 2 vision papers, so where the ministry and the higher education institutions work together on a shared vision on lifelong learning and on the future landscape of the higher education sector.
Thank you very much. It would be maybe very interesting also for all delegates to get hands on these vision papers. Maybe you can...
December.
Okay, maybe we can later disseminate them around. Dissemination is a good keyword. George just said he has to leave and he had some technical difficulties to participate here, unfortunately. But he's going to send some things in writing about the topic, so you're going to have it even more privileged at your hands when you go home on the train or wherever you go home. What you can hear, I think, what we are discussing now, I find it extremely interesting because it shows that the European Year of Skills and this idea of skilling is really demanding a total systems change in higher education on many levels. And I think the program of advancement funds, which you were just describing, is a good tool to think about on a national level. Also a question to you, Bogdan. Just now you were talking about dual higher education as an important concept for Romania. What's the status there? How do you plan to introduce or reinforce or emphasize on this concept?
Thank you for your question. As I mentioned, a very, very important part of the supporting of dual education in Romania is the fact that with these consortia we support the extension up until level 8 of qualification. So it's quite an important funding, 338 million euros for several consortia. And those consortia are important because they bring together universities, industry, local authorities, but also schools. So pre-university education. So in those consortia that we built upon and we finance them because the guide is released and the proposals that were already they are in evaluation. We offer a complete route for dual, and that is important because I don't know if the case is likewise in many European countries, but in Romania, after '89, the approach for medium-skilled jobs were and technical jobs were a little bit not in demand. But right now we realize that in order to have very good engineers and very good people in technical universities, you also need a very strong background and pre-university education and a very good, let's say, promotion and a very good image for dual education, and not only for that, for technical education. So our approach is to provide an entire pathway with accent on inclusion, because with dual, when you have funding, when you have state support, when you have in the same place all the education you need and the industry, it's easier for you to get in. So with the dual consortia, with the accent on inclusion, with the adaptations of curricula, with the mechanisms that we put in place in order to monitor the insertion of graduates and the demands of the matching of this of the labor market demands with the things and the education we provide. These are main topics, and I think very good steering material in order to develop the dual education.
Thanks a lot. One issue which I also wanted to touch on is this issue of micro-credentials a bit more in depth. The European Commission has released a communication on micro-credentials, and national member states are now discussing how to integrate that into the systems. And with a look to the students which we just saw and listened to here, I think it's important to understand that the micro-credentials is not just a tool, but it's really changing also study pathways. Yeah? Study pathways. In a micro-credential future higher education world, students can change between institutions, for example, and take their credentials with them, have them recognized, and then stack them together and build their own curriculum, maybe even. So it's a very flexibilized way to do that. And it's a very demanding concept, which I just described in quite, let's say, maybe even exaggerated way, but it's a very demanding concept for our old big tanker institutions to think in that way. And also it's not just flexibilizing higher education study pathways, but also thinking to provide new opportunities throughout the lifetime to, obtain micro-credentials here and then, episodic life education and learning instances. So what is your plan, Lisbeth, to take on board higher education institutions and get them enthusiastic about these ideas?
Well, maybe now I have to be honest and say at this moment I have the easiest job in the world. Because in the Flemish community, back in 2004, we decided to make all of our higher education offer flexible, meaning that every learning unit is a separate unit and students can already build their curricula themselves and take up the number of ECTS and credits they want, and all our system is already adapted to that part. So it's not so hard to make the institutions enthusiastic or counter it, because we did that almost 20 years ago, and it works fine, by the way. So if you want to do it, please do so, because it's definitely something that works. But on the other hand, we're still going to look into micro-credentials as an extra part, not on the normal curricula, but see how we can actually make the offer even more broader and see how we can define this together in Flanders. We've been mostly looking at it from the lifelong learning perspective, because our normal programs are already adapted to that.
So already a step forward in Flanders, very, very good to hear that. My last question goes to you, Bogdan. Before I also wanted to offer the possibility of one or two questions from the audience maybe, so you can think already about it. What is your vision on a micro-credential higher education here in Romania?
I hope I'm not using a very strong word, but I think micro-credentials are a must. And the thing that are very important behind that is, on one hand, internationalization, because all these exchanges show us the need to have micro-credentials. And not only that, the change in the learning environment. We have a lot of autonomous learning, we have a lot of non-formal learning. A very, very good example is the digital competencies. Right now, each and every one of us developed digital competencies in the area we needed them. It was a lot of autonomous learning. It was a lot of need-based learning. It was a lot of collaboration learning. So, and the pandemic enforced that. So we are open to that. We show that we can do that. It's very, very important for all the institutions to adapt to that and to recognize that, because in a way, it's a new way of learning. And micro-credentials will be a very useful tool in order to recognize that and to enforce that and to adapt to the labor market.
So thanks very much to my panel now. colleagues. Are there any questions from your side? We have one question over there. Maybe we can take one more question. Minutes. Another question from Michael. So we have a microphone. Super. Thanks a lot.
All right, can you hear me? Works? So yeah, thank you for this panel session and for offering the opportunity to raise questions. I have a question regarding rather your introductory words, Mr. Illes. You mentioned the necessity that future skills or higher education in general maybe should not only focus on the needs of the labor market, but as well maybe on the needs that democracy in general has. My question is, I've recently read the communiques that the ministries of education have published over the last 20 years in the context of the Bologna process. And apart from the necessary preparation for the labor market, they highlight the importance of education for democratic citizenship and also European citizenship. And I also found a paper of either was the European Commission or the European Council that said, especially future skills concept, they widely focus on the labor market, but of course citizenship education needs to have a bigger role to play. And why, this is a question for all of you, why do you think that higher education institutions are rather reluctant and also future skill frameworks, according to my point of view, to really take this issue seriously enough, given that we are experiencing times of a rise of rising populism all across Europe, and that we should focus on this issue more seriously. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for the important question. So the diagnosis from your side that higher education is not enforcing this idea of European citizenship enough, and I would ask you to react to that. But before that, I take another question from you, Michael, and then we can maybe combine the answers to that. You can reflect already a little bit.
Thanks. Eurashe Alliance, and this is a policy forum, so I will try to challenge you, and I know that you have to be careful. You speak a lot about the flexibility. In higher education, we are supposed to be international, but we are so bound by the national regulations. And when the European university started, I heard so many commitments of the ministers saying, well, we will remove all the obstacles. We had just 2 weeks ago the meeting at both of your countries, and also the European countries engaged in the association. We found that there are absurd details which basically make it so difficult to collaborate. And especially when it comes to lifelong learning, recognition, quality, I think we need to remove that. So my question is, would the national regulations would be removed? Is the solution at the European level? How would you see that? And I know that you have to be careful.
Thank you very much for the clear statement behind your question. So what do you think? One is taking the question on European collaboration and removing obstacles, which is needed, and the other one taking the question on European citizenship as a new agenda, a very important agenda, which is not respected enough. Who wants to go first? With which question?
Well, I will first answer to Michael's question.
Okay.
He probably thought that I had an opinion on that one. And I will try to be careful, but not too careful. Saying that one European regulation, that's maybe the idealistic solution, but that's not going to happen. It will not solve the needs every institution has right now. So that's not a short-term solution. I do think that if I reflect on the whole process of the European University Alliances project and combined with the European Decree label and the status of the alliances and everything that's going on, if this project really is successful, which I hope, and I don't mean that one institution is successful, but that it really grows and keeps growing and takes a definite place in the higher education landscape with its own educational programs, also on bachelor and master level, then it will put, I think, the ministries for one of the biggest challenges since the Bologna reform, because then we will have to make further and much further adaptations to the higher education law in the different countries in order to adapt it. Until we get there, I do want to call on every institution in an alliance who encounters a practical problem, who says this is not working because there is something in the law, to please communicate it to your own policymakers. Because maybe there are things in the law, in our laws, even in my laws, which we're not aware of, that there's still a hinder, still a barrier for certain educational processes. Because if we don't know, we don't do this ourselves. I mean, you will encounter the problems, but it also means that it's a good thing that you at least communicate the problems back, so to see that we have taken them into account. I know that in Flanders we did some changes to the law to make things easier for universities and university of applied science taking part in the alliance, but maybe we still didn't do anything. Or everything we needed to, but then I also don't have a list right now of Flanders institutions saying this and this and this needs to be changed. So I do think that communication between the two sectors can be enhanced, and especially if you encounter the barriers, communicate them back, and communicate them back more maybe if it's not changed immediately, because otherwise you will not get the problem solved on a short-term basis.
Thanks a lot. Bogdan, can I ask you to respond to the other question on European citizenship as a very important issue?
Thank you. Both. And thank you for the questions, because they are very well targeted, and we are in a community, and of course we have to be direct and to answer as good as we can. With your permission, I will also say a little bit to Michael about the internationalization of the higher education process was one of the pillars of the new higher education law. And Mr. Kostoi was very, very close to that. And we tried to embed into the law the previous experiences. That doesn't make it perfect. We will see if it works. But we have to have a convergent approach from the university levels to the stakeholders, national levels, because we know the European treaty give education a certain role. And on the other hand, the European university alliances and the fact that in the last Council of Ministers, European Council of Ministers, the automated recognitions of skills were mentioned and approved by everybody are steps in the good direction. Steps. I didn't say anything, you know. Okay. So this was the answer. And about the democratic citizenship framework, which is already put in place at lower education level, I think one thing that in a way slows the process in universities is, in order to be sure, we as teachers, I am a mathematician, so we as teachers try to assess what we did. And the competencies for democratic cultures are very hard to assess. And they are transversal. So once again, we don't feed it like part of our discipline. But we have to say it loudly that are part of our learning and living environment. Of course, is the balance you mentioned, the balance between labor market that will require and that requires hard skills, and the society needs that requires transversal skills. And with the AI, that wasn't mentioned here, but with the AI, the critical thinking, the resilience, all the competences and skills you need for autonomous learning are quite important. And as you know, nature fears the void. And it is a void in that direction. So we as European citizens will need that. So I think the need will create the process with our help, of course.
Thanks a lot. So
I was hoping to avoid that.
Final bell, so the time is over. I think we have seen that it really requires a big effort to revolutionize our system with the skills agenda. One person which I admire very much, Roberto Carneiro, the former Minister of Education from Portugal, he once told me that to manage this revolution which we need in higher education, we need to be able to dance, to steal, and to show off. And I asked him why, and he said, well, dance, if you don't dance, nobody's going to join you. And steal, if you don't steal, you will never benefit from the good ideas of others. You have to copy them. And show off, if you don't show off, nobody will ever learn from you. So in that regard, I would like to leave you to the coffee break now, and I'm not sure if we change the time frame.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, panelists, for your insights. It's a pity we had technical problems and couldn't listen to John, but as he promised to give his insights in the written form, so I think we will really benefit from it. And now I would like to announce that everything that will go on next will be with 15 minutes delay. Right now we will go for coffee. It's served in the hall just behind the door. It will be a little bit shorter, and we start our breakout sessions at 11:45. Mind that the first 4 breakout sessions will happen in the Central Library, which is on your left, the second building when you go out of the main building. And the last one will happen in Aula, which is the first building on your left. We have to be back here at 12:30 for the panel discussion, labor market and cooperation and industry. And we will shorten the lunch break to be on time by 15 minutes. So enjoy your coffee, and we will meet in the breakout sessions.
No coffee. Starting with that, it's scary. I uploaded.